How's everybody on my Instagram page doing, whether watching live or later? Hope you guys are doing well. And here we are. We have our YouTube group, our YouTube page is here. So what's up, everybody? Ryan Sanders with Project Fresh, checking in for another evening. We're midway through the week, our second to last week together in 2020. Next week, well, about a week to go here. Next week will be our last week that we'll stream before we take the rest of the year off. It's good to take a break. I'm going to spend some time thinking about what I want to do for 2021, how I want to go about the year, what I want to talk about, what time I want to spend planning on my content, on if I'm going to create these videos a little bit differently, maybe create some actual video content. I feel like I've got some topics that are decent and worth sharing. Obviously, that's going to depend on those I'm speaking to. They'll be I hate to use the word judge, but they'll be the ones to say whether the content is valuable or not. Ultimately, at the end of the day, any content creator is tested based on their audience and the response thereof. So anyway, that being said, if you don't know who I am, it's like, who's this random guy talking on YouTube like 10,000 other people? I'm Ryan Sanders with Project Fresh, and our company is focused on lifestyle elevation, or elevation of your lifestyle, or more importantly, lifestyle coaching. So in the context of what Fresh is, that's fitness, finances, recreation, and relationships. That's the F and the R. The E is overall education. S is sanctity. That's soul and spiritual health. And the H is health overall. Kind of a nice catch-all that we like to use for the acronym, but works well. Maybe health will turn into something else in the future, but for now, that's where we're at with it. It has evolved from its origin back in 2016. As we've learned and experienced and grown more, we've added it to the mix. And by finances, we're not talking about just saving money or spending wisely. We get much deeper than that. We're talking about creating wealth for yourself, creating wealth for generations to come, learning how to protect it, learning how to look at an asset and evaluate it to determine if it is something worth pursuing, having a team of other asset analyzers, for lack of better terms, who you can partner with to analyze your assets and see if they're worth investing in, short-term, long-term, whatever your investing strategy may be. Well, what's an investing strategy? Okay, covering that too. What's your overall goal and why? Most importantly, out of everything, it's not so much about the success of the goal, but so much more so what are you going to be doing with it, that I think becomes the most important play of finances. That's where the impact is, because we all know whether you leave the planet with $1 or you leave the planet with $1 trillion, none of it's going with you. It's going to go on to somebody else, and it might be your family or it might be somebody else. So who do you want your hard work to go to, and how do you want it to go to them, and how do you want to bless them, and what legacy do you want to leave here on planet Earth before you move on? That's the essence of what we all can expect in this experience we call life. That was deep. Oh my gosh, what is this guy really getting to? So let's let's talk about the topic at hand today. So I've been covering a five-step or five-part series. This week, I wanted to finish up our last full week strong together. And the first 2 days, we did step 1 and step 2. Step 1 was Monday, and that was goal setting and game planning for the first one. So step number 2 was execution. We talked about the process of execution, practicing, not perfection. And then today we'll talk about the power of rest. And just a very short recap. By the way, I asked my wife if she liked the thumbnail today, and she did. She liked it. I liked it too. It's a very nice, peaceful scene. It reminds me of my childhood. Grew up in the woods. Grew up camping. We never did cots, actually, but the idea of a cot strung between a couple of trees is really, really a cool idea, especially with a valley and a river and a landscape full of trees like that. And if you know what a tree, a nice coniferous tree smells like, obviously if you've had a Christmas tree, But imagine that multiplied times thousands, and basically just the second you get into the forest, you smell that all the time. Like, it is such a nice smell. It is such a beautiful, just the tree purifies air so nicely. You don't know what it is about coniferous trees, but man, do they make the air smell really good. I'm not a biologist, so I wouldn't be able to tell you any details there, but it's just a fond memory going to the woods. But anyway, we'll be talking about step number 3, the power of rest. And this is in our 5-part or 5-step series, how to elevate your lifestyle in 5 steps in 2021 next year. So doing a how-to today. So this content will be available, and we're actually going to put all of this content into a nice package as well. Bind it all up and put it into one video package. So working on those finer details. I hope to have it before the end of the year. We'll see how it goes. Managing a few things. So yeah. So step 1 was set goals and game plan. It's very important to set some goals, especially one that challenges you. You could add another 2 goals to that max. A good 3 goals, I think, is a nice way to start. That's my personal experience, and I think what would be good if you're going to truly be serious about your goals, meaning give a good amount or the appropriate amount of time, effort, and energy, and investing into that. And I mean, investing as in financial investment, mental investment, emotional investment, all of the above. 1 to 3 goals seems to be a good range to really dial that in. That's how I've been operating for about the last year or 2 in my planners that I have, which fits that very nicely. 2 to 3. Anymore, it's like overwhelm. It's like trying to take in a quarter term. I went to a private school where we were on quarter system. And so if you take any more than 4 classes, it's going to be tough. And if you're doing anything else on top of that, work or extra curriculars or anything along the lines, it's going to be a rough quarter for you, because the quarters are done in like 12, 13 weeks. You get your midterm in the 2nd or 3rd week. You can have upwards of 3 midterms. And that last midterm can literally be the week of Hell Week or the week before with your final. I had professors do this who gave us a 3rd midterm, said the final would be conclusive or including all the material we covered. Plus, there's a few names that come to mind that I should not call this lady, but she even gave us new content after the 3rd midterm and said that would be on the final too. It's like, oh man. Anyway, I'm just having PTSD right now thinking about it. So I need to just let myself know I got the degree. It's done. It's over. I can relax. It's all right. Let it go. Anyway, that would probably only be something maybe those who I went to school with would understand. Not to say that anyone else wouldn't, but just, yeah, anyway. Chemistry sucked. So, So 1, game plan, and set goals. Set a schedule is what I was getting at with this idea of college. Set something that's going to be reasonable, that will stretch you, that will be reasonable too. 2 is the execution. Practice, not perfection. We don't demand perfection from our athletes. We don't demand perfection from our I don't know. What would be some other good things? There's a few professions I won't say because they're touchy topics right now. I'm trying to think of, like, I want to say a air traffic control, but they kind of have to be as close to perfect as possible, because you don't want planes crashing into the ground or each other or other things. I'll be honest with you, I'm lost the words. But honestly, it's just the idea yesterday was practice over perfection. You're never going to be perfect anyway, so just practice to get better and better and better and better and better every day. Then today is the power of rest. I've literally pigeonholed myself into about 5 minutes to cover a topic that deserves like at least 50 minutes. So I'm going to do my best here with this topic of the power of rest. And I don't just mean getting good sleep. Like, that's a part of it. That is very important. Your body without sleep, your brain without sleep, all the above and below. It's miserable without excellent sleep. You might be able to get by, but eventually it's going to show up somewhere. So sleep is a very important part. Recovery, rest, recuperation are all a part of that package as well. So recovery of the body, of the mind, of the emotions, of the spirit, very important. A period to allow yourself to just take a break from things, very important. Recuperation, active work on the body, mind, soul, spirit, etc. Like doing things that are going to help you heal, communicating, sharing with other people in a way that would produce, I think, part of the sharing process, like sharing deep and troubling and trying and traumatic things, is healing. But what's interesting about sharing those things with other people is that it can be healing for them too. Transparency has such a impact to it, such a power to it. It's very interesting. But I've been in rooms with people that I didn't know, literally 2, 3, 4, 5 hours before I stepped into the room, started revealing stuff, or they started revealing stuff about their lives. It was very difficult, very trying, and the breakthrough and the release and some of the other experiences I witnessed in those kind of scenarios were definitely life changing. I had experienced some breakthrough in those processes myself, or with my clients. Sometimes they will reveal or share things with me that they wouldn't just share with anybody, even some people closest to them. And I don't think it's because I'm just some guy that people can come to. I think it just seems right for them. They seem like it's a safe place. They don't sense there will be any repercussions, which generally can be the case with sharing with people closer to you. There can be feelings, emotions, reactions that can come back to you when you expose yourself in a vulnerable way, and that produces hardship. But in this case, getting back to it, back to the finer point of the power of rest, whatever rest you need in that expanse and more. It's very important. I tell a lot of my clients two things in the context of personal training, and I think this could apply in all the other areas that I just talked about. So as you increase your load, as you increase your intensity, or volume, or both, you just anything your expenditure, your training, as that increases in time, intensity, or both, you also want to increase your level of active recovery, recuperation, etc. For example, Kobe, people knew Kobe flew to the UK to get work done on his knees and other parts of his body so that he could continue to perform. It's basketball season. I love basketball. I used the picture for the thumbnail yesterday, and I want to keep it going. Just it's I don't know. I think it's my favorite sport. I sometimes think football might be, but I think basketball probably still is my favorite sport. And Kobe was an example. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Lebron now is another gentleman that we hear a lot about. He spends, I don't know, what, 7 figures, from what I understand, on his body just to keep his body in high level detail. Well, the man's getting paid a lot of money to shoot a basketball through a hoop and assist the ball to other players and do what he does as a leader on the team. That's a very high caliber position that he's in. That could translate to a high mental or calculating proficient position in a corporation or a company or a nonprofit where you're operating at high levels mentally. It could translate to you being a spiritual level, operating at high levels spiritually, where you're giving counsel and mentorship and providing insight to others who are coming to you for those resources. You could be a counselor, a high level counselor, where you're working with one-on-ones or one-on-minis, many hours of the day, and emotionally you're being taxed. You're giving yourself away emotionally. Each and every one of those and more, you fill in the blank in any area where you are operating in a resource. The flip is whatever capacity you're operating, there needs to be a sufficient amount. I'm not necessarily saying equal, but sufficient amount of recovery and rest that comes with that. Because we all have limitations. You may be that special, one in a million that can go 7 days in a week with very poor sleep. But I was actually just watching a guy from the UK that I've been following for multiple years, that he says he'll do about 2 to 3 hours of sleep, maybe 4, for maybe 5 days out of the week, but there's at least one day in his week where he does a crash sleep. And that crash sleep is like 6, 7, well, no, about 7, 8, 9 hours where he just crashes out and then he's back and he's at it again. Like he just can't maintain. So we all are operating under limited resources. And the more you push, the more rest that's required. And here's the flip side. Unfortunately, in our country, I don't know if this is across the board. So if you happen to be outside of the United States, for some reason in our culture, it seems that getting appropriate rest can be looked down upon, like it's like it's weakness or something, like something about getting adequate sleep or adequate recovery. Or I see the word self-care come up quite frequently right now. It's very much becoming a fabric of the lifestyle and life and taking care of oneself narrative. That most likely, well, self-care, I should say, comes up a lot. Whatever you want to frame it as, that has such a power to it that if you don't take care of yourself and give yourself the powerful rest, you could very well see some challenges. What I meant to say and go to specifically is that the emphasis or the essence of rest, I think, is one of the most powerful tools that you could allow yourself to have and to develop and to cultivate. And not just so much focus on one direction, go, 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 and grind, 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 grind. Like that has a time and a place, but there's also a time and a place for rest. And like I said, this is a topic that I think deserves a lot more time than I'm giving it, but I will stop there and just say that if you haven't considered rest as a part of your equation for elevating your lifestyle in 2021, I would highly encourage you to spend some time doing so, especially if you find yourself low in energy, if you find yourself constantly stressed out or anxious, if you feel like you're having a hard time breaking through in your workouts, if you have a hard time at work, mentally, spiritually, emotionally exhausted, whatever it may be, and you just can't find a breakthrough, the very best thing you might want to incorporate into your overall package is very simply rest. It's the idea is to keep it simple. If you try to complicate things rather, you could just find yourself at a loss. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. That is my step number 3 of 5, the power of rest. Like I said, I could really go into this a lot more. We could cover each and every one of those kind of facets of what I covered in rest today, but I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys have a great evening. We've got 2 more days to go for this week. So drop us a comment. Let us know if there's anything you'd like us to cover in 2021. We've already got some topics queued up that we'll be getting into for 2021, and we're looking forward to coming out of the end of year break with some fire in our eyes, some joy in our hearts, and some pep in our step for continuing this process forward. So as always, it's a pleasure. Ryan with Project Fresh, signing out. We'll see you tomorrow, 6:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, speaking to you from the San Francisco Bay Area. Take care. Have a great one. Till next time.